California's new governor, Gavin Newsom, scrapping plans for a $77 billion high-speed rail from Los Angeles to San Francisco. Hillary Vaughn has the very latest on all this. Hi, Hillary.
Hey, David. Well, California taxpayers were promised a train that would travel so fast between Los Angeles and San Francisco that it would replace shuttle flights and give people the ability to commute to and from those two cities on a daily basis. But that was just a pipe dream, apparently, and the $77 billion high-speed rail project is being stopped in its tracks.
The current project, as planned, would cost too much and respectfully take too long. There's been too little oversight and not enough transparency. Right now, there simply isn't a path to get from Sacramento to San Diego, let alone from San Francisco to L.A. I wish there were.
The billion-dollar budget for the project has become a runaway train, and Governor Newsom admits there's no way to stop the constant run-up of costs year after year. The state estimates the cost to finish the project could reach nearly $100 billion. So now Californians will get about 10% of the project that was promised, a high-speed route between two towns in the heart of the Central Valley, Bakersfield to Merced, a stretch of farming and oil communities. But local representatives from the valley, where top industries are farming, agriculture, and oil, are laughing at the new tracks because they don't think there's anyone to buy a ticket to ride it. State Senator Jim Nilsen saying, quote, "We're going to put more billions into a train in a place where there's no ridership, no freight to be hauled. What economy is that going to improve in the Central Valley? I was raised there. I farmed there." It is not the answer for the valley, but still, Governor Newsom promises he's not completely ditching the idea of a high-speed rail project, saying he'll still try to push for private funding for the rest of the track, but we'll see if anyone is jumping at the opportunity to pick up that $100 billion price tag. Back to you guys.
Yeah, well, let the market decide. Hillary, thank you very much. So, gang, just as the Green Deal's pushing these high-speed rail trains all over the country, California realizes it's a boondoggle. So what do you make of this?
Yeah, David, it feels like we're trying to run before we can walk here. Something similar was going to happen in Illinois recently, last few years with Milwaukee, Madison, and Chicago. That failed because I think we're looking past kind of the near-term problems, and that's our own, say, inner-city infrastructure, whether it's the roads and bridges in places like Chicago, which I drive over and get flat tires on daily, or at least during the year, or, say, Houston, Dallas, other areas that are expanding that need kind of that infrastructure internal build-out. As Hillary pointed out, you don't need this long train line that looks great on a T-shirt between two big cities in California. You need more short rail type stuff. So that's why we should look at those things first and then maybe expand in the longer term.
Yeah, this reminds me of that Simpsons episode about the monorail, where the con man convinced them to spend all of their money on this monorail that ended up being an epic failure. And we all knew that this was going to happen. I mean, the reality is that the government screws up everything that it touches, and it doesn't matter that if it's the federal government or the local government. We all knew this was going to be an epic disaster, that it was going to be something that comes in over budget. This shouldn't be a surprise, and I think it should be a warning, a big red neon sign for anybody who thinks that the Green New Deal is at all potentially realistic.
And the fact of the matter is, I love when the governor said, let's be real about this. I wish he could take that attitude towards single-payer health care, which he seems to be pushing in California.
There's something to be said, at least for backing out of this thing before it becomes a bigger disaster, so credit goes there. But I haven't really seen the example of the big, successful high-speed rail project in America that people keep talking about. I guess, like Scott says, we're just not there yet.
But this was the actual point of the Green Deal's talk about getting rid of planes. We won't need planes because we'll have high-speed rails. I mean, does past experience mean anything to people that are involved in U.S. policy? And
well, let's look at the facts. High-speed rail is an improvement on 19th century technology with railroads. So they still have a 19th century attitude on that. They have a 15th century attitude on energy. Windmills, great for Holland back then. And airplanes, that's new, so you can't have that. If we got rocket ships, they'd be against that, too. I mean, I'm surprised I haven't proposed bringing back horses, except we know that's a pollution problem, too.
That's right.
I've got some horses I'd like to bring back. And, David, I think it also says or speaks to the fact that they don't understand American culture. And, again, right, wrong, or indifferent, I don't know a lot of people that want to take a high-speed train to Madison or take a high-speed train along the coast of California. When somebody's driving or going, let's say, over 100 miles, 200 miles, they're driving. I mean, that's what Americans do. That's what we're used to. If they want to change the culture of America, that's going to take a lot longer than 10 years to do so.
I think it's a culture issue because it just hasn't worked. And I think that this is an opportunity, again, for private enterprise to get involved. If you look at Elon Musk and what he's doing with the Boring Company and trying to figure out if there is a way to dig tunnels or do something, we don't know if that's going to work, but at least it's not on the taxpayer's dime.
And by golly, in terms of rails, what gets overlooked is we have the best rail system in the world when it comes to freight. Better than Europe, better than China. That's our strength. Play to our strengths. They want high-speed rails that lose money and inefficient. Fine, let them waste the money.
By the way, I take a low-speed train from Westchester County into Grand Central most days. Could I get a little Wi-Fi on the train, please? If you want to do a new green whatever, give me a little Wi-Fi. I mean, this is America, right? It is 2019 last time I did a little Wi-Fi before we go high-speed.
There is a positive news. At least they're getting off of this boondoggle. I mean, Jerry Brown, the previous governor, seemed to be have no end to the amount of money he was willing to spend for this.
That was his pyramid, and thankfully it ain't going to be built.
All right, thank you, gang.
But
well,
they keep trying them.
It's not just the 2020 Democrat presidential candidate and vegan Cory Booker has a beef with meat lovers. And if you're one of them, your days could be numbered, according to him. Booker telling the publication Vegan News or Veg News, this planet simply can't sustain billions of people consuming industrial-produced animal agriculture because of an environmental impact. So how far is candidate Booker going to push his anti-meat platform in a country where 95% of voters are meat eaters? What do you think?
Yeah, nobody knows, as you say in that introduction, what his beef is with meat eaters. And he says meat eating his days are numbered. The only thing that's numbered is his presidential candidacy coming out with a bad meat like that.
Whoa.
I mean, there's less than meets the eye on his candidacy.
Oh, Steve, less than meets the eye.
That's three. I got to call a timeout. Come on. Did you say a minute ago there's a publication called Veg News? First of all, that's an actual thing. All right, good.
Yes,
I'm going to see if I can
that's a real
freelance
thing.
for them later. Look, I like to look for any opportunity I can to oppose you guys in these issues, but I'm not going to eat tofu to do it. I'm a committed meat eater. I cannot go along with it.
Leave birdseed for the birds.
They're going to have to pry this burger with bacon out of my cold, dead hands.
There you go.
The reality is that animals eat each other in nature, and I hate to say, we're at the top of the food chain. So just because you're woke doesn't take away our nature. We want our burgers.
Guys, I think I could really sink my teeth into this one, though, on the standpoint of this is Cory Booker, again, trying to tell people how they should live. It's the government, again, like to Steve's point, as his candidacy disappears like the food on my plate. It's him talking to people like he knows better than they do. The government is supposed to choose what you eat. So if you want to have breakfast with the government, vote for Cory Booker.
But at least give the guy credit that he wasn't chicken and taking on this issue.
Oh, jeez.
It's not stopping. Somebody help. Look, the ethical stuff that he raises is fine. I'm glad we have more choices now that we didn't have when I was a kid. You could buy grass-fed, you could buy cage-free, you could do all this stuff if you so choose. I'm happy for that. We did that in my household. But as far as getting away from meat altogether, first of all, if killing animals to eat them is not ethical, what about killing all that asparagus? Isn't that murder
Right, no,
of vegetables?
it definitely is. I've heard them scream as they're going into the pot. But look, I mean, this again is a private enterprise type of thing. There are these plant-based substitutes that are coming on the market. I'm sure some people will eat them and like them, and we'll let the market choose. But at the end of the day, this market is choosing a big burger.
And what's Cory Booker going to call the bully pulpit now? Is he going to call it the vegan pulpit or the seaweed
the barbecue
seaweed
pit.
pulpit?
That's a pretty good deal on rib steak I just saw on the screen right there.
By the way, he's saying that one of the problems with meat eaters or with loving meat and having a meat economy is that we're running out of space. We just don't have ranches enough for all the meat that needs to be produced.
And they're
so
talking
forth.
about solar energy and windmills, talking about space. The cows occupy about 1/50th of what they want to do with those windmills.
This is certainly his pet project, but I think it's going to fail.
And by the way, I love
I think
venison for one
we've
thing.
milked it for all it's worth.
We have milked it, but days there are enough deer out on the road just through roadkill to feed a small army. So I mean, if he's running out of space, why not pick up the roadkill? I'm just suggesting. I don't know.
Dear Corey.
Dear Corey. All right. And you have Ted Turner, who has his buffalo farms. I think there's plenty of space, is there not?
I think so. Look, I'm no Veg News subscriber, but I think you're making sense here, David.
I think that's a future collab. Barron's by Veg News. I feel like that's a future collaboration.
Don't even say so. No, I hope no Barron's readers are watching. She's joking if there are Barron's readers watching.
That was a joke.
With 95% of Americans meat eaters, is he going to have to backtrack on this one, Steve?
Yeah, he's going to have to do it, and he's going to have to eat a Big Mac to show that he really didn't mean it.
There's not going to be any
And people
policy to
deserve
come.
choice.
They're not. The government is not.